Hi, I'm Larry Richardson, your step-by-step chef. Macaroni and cheese. I feel like I don't have to say anything more than that. Everybody loves macaroni and cheese, and anything I have to say about it is just extra words. But making homemade macaroni and cheese, not macaroni and cheese out of a box from the store, is just primo. It's extra special. And when I make my macaroni and cheese, I love to add some tomato to it, some chopped tomato. It just freshens it up even more. But that's totally optional. It's totally up to you. But I do want to show you how to make homemade mac and cheese. So come on, let's cook. And here are the ingredients for our homemade macaroni and cheese, with or without tomato. We're going to use half a stick of butter. That's 4 tablespoons of butter. We're going to use 4 tablespoons of this all-purpose flour, 2 cups of milk, 3 cups of cheese, and I'm using a shredded cheese. And you can shred your own cheese if you want, but this cheese, because it's shredded, it will melt into the macaroni and cheese very smoothly. It'll mix in quite nicely and quite quickly. And I'm using a Fiesta blend cheese, and there are so many different kinds of cheeses out there, so experiment. Pick the one that you like. I like this because it has just a little bit of a bite to it. I'm also going to use 1 cup of chopped tomato, and those are Campari tomatoes, and we are going to take out the seeds and pulp out of that. We're going to use 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/8 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1/8 teaspoon of garlic powder. And of course it would not be macaroni and cheese without macaroni. So I have a 1-pound box of mini elbows. And again, there are a lot of different pastas. You might want to try it with shells or rotini, you name it. It's just such a cool dish because you can make it so many different ways when you make it yourself. So let me show you how to put all this together. It's unbelievably easy. Now the only real prep work for our mac and cheese is preparing the tomatoes. And if you're not adding tomato, of course you're going to skip this spot. But boy, I love it with tomato. And all I'm doing now is I'm just cutting the cores off the top, the stemmy parts as I like to call them. And if you don't have Campari tomatoes, which I think are very sweet and easy to work with, any tomato you can get your hands on are just fine. But the main point is that we want to take off the stemmy part. It's a technical cook term. And then we're going to clean the pulp and the seeds out of the inside. And of course all of these tomatoes were rinsed off ahead of time. That's a given. So now what we do is just take our tomato, cut it in half, rinse the pulp out, and then chop it into these little bite-sized pieces. So we're basically dicing it. There you go. And you just want fork-sized pieces. You don't want people to have to go at this dish with a knife and fork when they're eating it. Mac and cheese is supposed to be fun. And then let's just give these pieces a cross cut. And I'm going to do that for every one of these tomatoes until I add up our cup of chopped tomato. So I'm going to do the rest of these and then meet you over at the stove. Okay, so this is kind of about a 15 to 20 minute process. So if you have a pasta that needs to cook for, within that amount of time, start the water now and then get the pasta in there when you're estimating when the cheese sauce will be done. So here's our butter. A little warm in the studio tonight, so it's kind of tacky. But we're going to melt our butter down, and this pan preheated at just over 1/4 heat. Okay, so let's get that all melted down. A little tackiness today. And then let's just add our 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. 1. Let's give that a little stir. This stuff can turn pretty lumpy, so I like to mix it in as I go. Those lumps will work out, but you just don't want to throw the flour in all at once, because then it is harder to deal with the clumps. That's 2, and actually that's a little bit more than 2. And if you have a whisk, you can mix it in with the whisk, but I can do okay with these wooden spoons. 3. And just take it slow. Take it nice and easy. This isn't a dish. This is actually a dish that takes a little bit of patience, because if you go too fast, you will have the different ingredients clump and turn stringy and do stuff like that. So just be patient. And there's 4. Okay. Let's get that nice and mixed in. And you can see adding it and stirring it as we go, that does help to keep the flour from clumping up. There we go, nice even consistency. Okay, that's smooth, so we're going to add our milk next. This is also one of those dishes where you don't want to rush it by turning the heat up. If you turn the heat up, there's a good chance that the milk is going to curdle. So just be patient. It'll all warm up like it's supposed to. The cheese can also get pretty weird if you turn the heat up too fast. So there's our 2 cups of milk. Let's just stir that in. Make sure the butter and the flour are getting nice and uniform and mixed in with this. Again, be patient. Now let's add our salt and our spices. So we have our teaspoon of salt. Our teaspoon of black pepper. This is optional. If you don't like black pepper, that's okay. But I just find it gives it a nice, gives the mac and cheese a nice little twist. In fact, when I eat the boxed versions, I always add some black pepper to it. And I'll even add some tomato to that too. And some people don't like tomato, and they look at me like it's blasphemy, but I do. And then we'll add our garlic powder, just a little hint of garlic. Plays off the cheese nicely. Don't go overboard on any of these the first time through, and then make it to your taste the next time. This adds just some delicious background notes. And here's our garlic powder. Okay. Again, I'm just getting it nice and mixed in. You can see we don't have any clumps from the initial mixture of butter and flour. Let me go add my elbows into the hot water, because I think this will take probably about 10 more minutes. Okay, so I'm preparing the macaroni according to the directions on the box. And I'm just trying to get this mixture over this very low, just above quarter heat. I'm trying to get it to warm up so when I add the cheese will melt into it. And again, we're going slow, because if you try to do this too fast, if you go up closer to half heat, you will end up curdling the milk. So just be patient. And I find this is true for just about every dish that I deal with that has milk in it. You have to be patient. I see a little steam rising off of this, So I am going to start adding the cheese. Again, it's 3 cups of cheese. That's about our first cup. Let's get that blended a little bit. Nice and easy. Get that to melt down. And the cheese itself drops the temperature of the milk a little bit, so it does take a little bit to get this to melt. It'll take a couple of minutes. I think this can accommodate our second cup of cheese. That's stirred in. And again, if you want to use like a block cheese, just grate it. Grate it until you have 3 cups. This is just such a treat. And the first time people have it homemade, they're like, oh my goodness, that is so, so fresh tasting. I think we're so accustomed to the boxes of cheese that people can't believe you can do this. And I just gave the macaroni a little stir so it doesn't stick together. And here comes our last cup of cheese. And this was a 4-cup of cheese container, so that's why I'm able to estimate it just by hand. Otherwise I would use the measuring cup. And here we go. And now it's just a matter of melting this cheese down. And if you would like a cheesier, thicker sauce, melt this cheese down, give it a taste, and see if you want to add more cheese. So I'll be right back. Okay, now here I am back, and it's thickening nicely. If you like it a little thicker than this, you can add a little bit more cheese or whisk in a little bit more flour. But this is ready for me to put the tomatoes in. Now the point of the tomatoes is I want them to have some presence. I don't want them to melt down to nothing, but I do want the sauce to be hot. So once I see steam start to rise off of the mac and cheese mix, I'm going to take this off the heat. And in fact, I'm already starting to see some steam. Let me just get a spoon. I'm going to give it a little taste. That's exactly what I was shooting for. This is going to taste great on that macaroni. Now I'm just going to heat it up just a little bit more, probably about 3 more minutes. Again, slow heating, might take 5. I'm going to test it with another clean spoon. If that's it, it's ready for Macaroniville. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so our macaroni's all ready. Now I'm going to add half of it to this bowl, because I want to make sure I get the ratio of macaroni to cheese just right. And there's our macaroni. I think this is going to be able to handle all of it. All of the macaroni. And you can let people do this per serving also. It doesn't have to be done all at once. So you can have a bowl of macaroni out, a bowl of cheese out, and let the people take it as they like to. They can mix it their way. So there's all of our macaroni. And here's the rest of our cheese. And the cheese might get a little stringy. There's no problem with that, because once it gets in with the macaroni, it'll mix up quite nicely. There you go. That's a real macaroni and cheese with tomato. And you can add more tomato, put tomato on the table, however you want to do it. But that's tasty. So congratulations. Look at what you just did. You just made this delicious homemade macaroni and cheese with tomatoes. Your family, your friends are going to love this. Now, if you like this recipe, please go to my website, stepbystepchef.com. There you will find a printable version of this recipe and printable versions and video links to well over 175 different breakfast, lunch, dinners, and treats. You're absolutely going to love it. The other thing you're going to find, didn't want to drop that on my foot, is my cookbook, Cooking with the Step-by-Step Chef. And I update this just about every November with whatever I've been cooking that year. But you will find over 100, probably over 200 different delicious recipes by the time you see this video. This makes a great gift for your friends and relatives, and I think they'll really appreciate it. And it's all the step-by-step way, so I hope you'll take a look. So again, my name is Larry Richardson. I am your step-by-step chef, and I'll see you in the next episode.